Elon Musk just exposed George Soros, and he has concrete proof that these Tesla protesters were paid actors all along.
Weekend, I went undercover as a Democrat voter to a Tesla protest here in Atlanta, Georgia. I wanted to go undercover to better understand, first of all, why they're protesting, but also I wanted to find out, are they actually being paid to protest?
I was one of the paid protesters at the April 5th liberal protests. And so I just wanted to come on and talk about my experience, what I had to do to get paid, and how much I got paid. So there were two kind of parts to it. The first was obviously just showing up. They gave me like a time.
And I wanted to be one in the number of millions of people that were standing in rain, standing across the country, coast to coast, and speaking up. So I've been pushing it still.
How happy were you to see all the folks that came out around the country?
Yeah.
It was for me food for the soul.
Yeah.
And you didn't see partisan band waving. You saw Americans standing up for Americans.
Yeah.
Because we really are at a moral moment, as we've been generations past, in the suffrage movement, the civil rights movement, the labor movement, the LGBTQ movement. So many movements we've seen Americans join arms, a rainbow coalition, standing up for what's right.
And this ain't a one-time thing. This is going to stay. This is going to stay with Americans every day until the stuff is fixed.
All right, folks. Buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you might just blow your mind. I went undercover. Yes, you heard that right. At the Atlanta protest against Tesla. Why, you ask? To peel back the layers of politics and see if these protesters are truly fired up about their cause. Or if they're just lining their pockets.
I was one of the paid protesters at the April 5th liberal protests. And so I just wanted to come on and talk about my experience, what I had to do to get paid, and how much I got paid. So there were two kind of parts to it. The first was obviously just showing up. They gave me like a time and a place and told me to look for a girl with blue hair and a nose ring, which like I thought would be really hard because I thought like everyone was going to look like that. But luckily she was the only one. It was really easy to find her. So yeah, that was good. I checked in. They told you that you couldn't wear anything MAGA. They also asked you not to wear red. So I just wore a black t-shirt and jeans. And I checked in, and then they said just like go on the march. And then at the end there would be like a questionnaire to answer. Oh, and then the other thing is they said they would pay extra if you brought a sign. So I did bring a sign. Again, same thing, like couldn't be MAGA, had to like be in line with like the liberal agenda. So my sign said, everyone deserves a good education, which like I don't necessarily personally agree with. Like if you're going to be a server or like a mechanic, like you don't really need an education, but I wanted to fit in. I wanted the money. And I didn't want to like draw attention to myself.
What I discovered was nothing short of shocking. I'm talking paid protesters, secret instructions, and an unsettling lack of authenticity.
And okay, the interesting thing is like you had to answer the questionnaire as if you were a liberal, and there were right and wrong answers. Like it wasn't just like whatever you thought. Like you could get the questions wrong, and you had to get them right in order to get paid. And at this point, I had already invested like 2 hours of my time, so I wanted the money, you know? So the first question, for example, was why do Republicans want more women to stay home and not work and not have jobs? And again, I just kind of like had to put myself in like their mindset. So I wrote basically like if women don't have jobs or job experiences and they have to rely on men financially, and that gives men a lot more control over their lives. For example, like, you know, if like
experience. It all started with a sense of curiosity, the kind that makes you wonder if there's more than what meets the eye. So I signed up as a supposed Democrat voter for the protest organized in Atlanta. The preparations were, well, honestly, kind of surreal. They gave me a time and a place and mentioned a specific look to avoid. No MAGA hats, no red clothing. Interesting, right? Anyway, I got there and it was like stepping into a movie set. The crowd was bustling and there was a curious energy in the air. When I say I had to find a girl with blue hair and a nose ring, I thought it'd be impossible with how stereotypes go. But ironically, she was the only one fitting the description. So finding my contact was easier than I'd imagined. After checking in, they handed out simple instructions. March, hold a sign, blend in. It was almost like being handed a script. I couldn't wear anything too provocative or outside the liberal narrative. My sign had to align too. So I held up one that read, "Everyone deserves a good education." Not going to lie, I felt a tad out of place since that message didn't completely resonate with me. But when money's involved, I guess people are willing to step slightly outside their comfort zones.
And one of those groups, known as Invisible Project, received that $7.6 million from George Soros to do exactly what you guys are seeing, to boycott and to protest anything related to President Trump. So it's very safe to say that the people protesting are probably not getting paid, but the organizers, they're getting a nice paycheck. So Elon, you're right in a sense. These people aren't paid protesters, but the people organizing this definitely are.
After today, I get it now. I understand why everyone is being called to leave the Democratic.
As we marched, I started noticing things, you know? Like, the people around me didn't exactly fit the image you'd picture when thinking about passionate protesters. There were elderly folks, upscale handbags swinging from the arms of women who looked like they were headed to a brunch, and couples that seemed, well, sort of bored. If this is what a grassroots protest looks like, it wasn't very convincing. Now, here's where it gets really questionable. They had a questionnaire waiting for us at the end of the protest. An odd mix of questions that tested if we could think like the movement. Things like why Republicans supposedly want more women at home. It was baffling, honestly. I had to jump through mental hoops to craft answers that seemed believable from a liberal perspective. The kicker? Getting these questions right was necessary to get paid. It wasn't just about showing up and expressing whatever you believed. No, Sari, you had to toe the line. Almost felt like a pop quiz on political ideology. And failing wasn't an option, at least not if you wanted your compensation. Speaking of payments, the voices of skepticism asking if these people were paid had some backing to them. $100 for my attendance and 10 extra for a sign. Not terrible for a day's work, but certainly not the patriotic fervor you'd expect at a grassroots movement. But here's something interesting, right? As I pieced all this together and reflected on it, I couldn't shake off the shadowy image of George Soros. His name popped up several times, rumored to be behind the funding of this spectacle.
This past weekend, I went undercover as a Democrat voter to a Tesla protest here in Atlanta, Georgia. I wanted to go undercover to better understand, first of all, why they're protesting, but also I wanted to find out, are they actually being paid to protest? I just wanted to investigate this claim of Elon Musk that they are literally paid protesters. So first of all, here's the demographic of the people at the protest. The majority of the people that I saw there were white boomers. And the boomers would sometimes even have their parents there with them. The women had really nice name brand bags and purses, and the husbands looked like they were just dragged out there. I'm telling you guys this because this doesn't fit the demographic of people who are paid to protest. And this also kind of debunks the left's claim that these are disenfranchised MAGA voters. All of these people voted for Kamala. But that doesn't mean that George Soros didn't fund this and didn't organize this with his money. So the people protesting may not be actually paid, but the people who organize the protest are, and I'm going to show you guys how. This right here is one of those paid organizers, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how she gets paid. Remember last year with the college encampments, how certain George Soros-tied organizations received endless amount of money from George Soros so they can disperse it to organizers? And those organizers were getting paid upwards of $7,800 just to protest for 8 hours a week? Well, the exact same thing is happening here. Here are 5 radical leftist groups protesting Elon Musk, one of which received $7.6 million, none other than from George Soros.
This influential billionaire, shrouded in controversy, allegedly funneling money into organizing such events? Well, the thought is enough to turn skepticism into sheer disbelief. These protesters, a sea of financially comfortable individuals, weren't the ones getting cash-stuffed envelopes, but these orchestrators, the puppet masters, if you will, definitely seem to be. Remember those times we heard college activist groups receiving hefty donations from Soros-connected organizations? That's right. The Invisible Project's name came up as one of the beneficiaries, receiving millions to perpetuate awareness. Tell me now, isn't it just wild how money cycles through these channels? At the end of the day, this protest left me more puzzled than before. Are the people out there genuinely fueled by their beliefs, or are they just moving pieces in a grand political chess game? A lot of people walking around holding signs, chanting slogans, and yet the traps of money, manipulation, and media all woven together left layers of complexity. Out there, it's hard to imagine a simple protest with so many tangled wires. Look, this is beyond your typical left versus right narrative. This dives into the systemic reality where influence meets motivation. Who to trust? What to believe? These protests blur the line between spontaneous public expressions and orchestrated political moves. And before I wrap up, here's a thought. Have you ever been to a protest? If so, what were the vibes like?
Who exactly does George Soros think that he is? He thinks that he can dictate and determine how the United States government is ran? For years, this man has been operating in the shadows, manipulating the mainstream media. I mean, he's been paying politicians all of this time. Now I guess he's just going to be paying protesters who fulfill his mission. It's absolutely sickening. They always say that Donald Trump's America is ruled by the oligarchy. The rich are in charge. They get to do whatever they want. They're completely unchecked. Elon Musk and all the biggest billionaires in America have lost billions of dollars since Trump came in because he's working on bringing back the middle class, bringing back manufacturing. And I'll tell you what, everything that Elon Musk is doing is completely transparent. You're talking to the media on a daily basis. They're letting you know every single thing that they are doing. That is a far cry from what George Soros and his goons were doing all this time. And it goes to show that they don't even have any movement in their party. Everything is manufactured and fake. Everything in the Trump Make America Great Again movement, America First, is all grassroots. People actually believe deep in their heart with what he's saying, with what he wants to do with this nation. Whereas on the other side, they're just looking for a paycheck, just looking to pay the bills. And I actually kind of understand it, because in the last 4 years under Joe Biden, he left us an absolute disaster. Inflation was through the roof, but when push comes to shove and the people enter the voting booth, they're not going to vote for the people who give them a couple bucks every now and then, but eventually want to make slaves of us all. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this down below. Do you think George Soros is still pulling the strings, or do you think his son has taken over? And is his son more radical, less radical? Let me know. I'd love to know your thoughts. And if you enjoyed, make sure to smash that like, comment, subscribe, and wish you guys nothing but the best.